There is a thinking stuff from which all things are made.
Keep going.
And which in its original state penetrates, permeates, and fills the inner spaces of the universe. I got that memorized. I might have flipped the words around, but you start there.
Everything begins with a thought. Welcome to another episode of As a Man Readeth. I'm Trey D.
And Goolsby.
Hey, listen, we have a new book for you this time. We have The Science of Getting Rich. And I think
I have the complete
Wallace
D.
Wattles. Yeah. So I don't have that. This is once again, he's up in the game on us right now. That's got to do it. But I think you all will enjoy this one as well. Now listen, let me start off before we get into it. I don't know what let's do a quick, the first part I was like, oh, here we go. Here we go. Listen, nah. He's like, anybody can be rich. I'm like, hey, okay, all right. Let me see my filters. What are my filters telling me right now? I'm like, okay, all right. I listen. And then I start as I'm reading. As you got to get through that preface. You got to get through chapter 1. You definitely got to get through chapter 2. Especially if you're someone of a person of faith, he like hits you with something. You're like, wait a minute. But the next sentence, he cleans it up. I'm just like, okay. So I think it starts off pretty. I thought it started off pretty rough for me, but
when you say rough, you mean as far as like
I think it's like it grabs the interest, but no. But it's more so like the way it challenges is like, wait a minute, all right. And then one of the things that I think what we do within the books that we're reading, they're not necessarily books that we always agree with. Like we're not going to agree with every author and all that good stuff, but it's something that we have an opportunity to read, discern, take, and glean what we want. And hey, leave the rest of it, where it is.
Right, because he did start with saying you have a right to be rich. And it's like, do you though?
Yeah.
Do you have a right to be rich? And the way he broke that sucker down, where he was saying, well, to be human is to
infinitely grow. Yeah, to infinitely grow and advance. It's like, yeah, okay, all right. Keep coming.
And in order to advance, you need to use the tools necessary
to get rich.
Right. And you need the resources. And if you have in order to get these tools and resources, you got to have money.
You got to have money.
To get rich.
Yeah. Now, I did find this is interesting because I don't know what. So the copy I got the digital copy. So I pulled it down from Google Books. And the copy I had was also had the big Harvard MBA stamp on it. It's in the library at Harvard right there. And I was like, oh, this is funny. I was like, okay. So it already gave me, I was like, okay, all right, let's see what we're going to read here and see what happens. So
got a lot of rich kids reading this. Desire. This I'm going to take one statement out of there that really hit me. It put desire is possibility seeking expression or function seeking performance. So let me say that again. Desire is possibility seeking expression or function seeking performance. And I was like, I just highlighted that because I was like, that's what desire is. Like if I have this thing, then I want to express this thing, or it's having the ability to do something and then wanting to showcase it to the world. Like I have to perform this thing.
Yeah, the idea of like, and because he goes a little bit further, and I think he talks about basically kind of like you're seeing it like manifest in a particular way. It's almost, we haven't even got to the scientific process part.
We haven't. Yet. We should, though.
But I like how he does that. And I was like, okay, all right. I'm a big fan of the scientific process, but he talks about this basically almost like it's this unmanifested seed, right? And I think that came about, and I thought that was that felt okay. I thought that was okay.
Yeah, the embodiment of the seed itself too. Like the seed is the seed, but if you don't put it in good soil, it's not going to even start to grow.
Right.
And that's what money does for people in some regard. He said a person cannot live fully embodied without good food, comfortable clothing, and warm shelter, and without freedom from excessive toil. Rest and recreation are also necessary to his physical life. And he just continues to build up where he's going, which is Waddle.
No. And who else does this? Because we somebody else is. There's another book that we read that they just if you think about it, they just kept building and building and building. It reminds me, the style here reminds me of when we were reading. No, not think.
As a Man Thinking.
As a Man Thinking. But we also as a Man Thinking. Go. Letting Go was very similar. Like you just like okay.
Letting go set your ass up, boy. They build you up because sometimes people don't want to read the first part because it's like I know this.
Right.
But I don't know if you know.
That was me. That was me. I was like, I know what you're talking about. Let's go.
Right. So then he gets into the science of getting rich, and he talks about the process of getting rich. And he had, and I'll read it out just so we're all on the same page. He had four steps. It's like getting rich is not a matter of environment. So that was like within the first thing, because he was talking about, and this is where you kind of say, oh no, because when you think Buckhead versus Decatur, and I'm like, well, there is a good side of Decatur though. They make some money over there too. It's expensive to live.
And there's some other sides of Buckhead, in my opinion.
And Buckhead be on some like, you got robbed the other day. I was like, what? What's going on in Buckhead?
But he talks about like states being adjacent to each other. So some folks are doing well and some people are not. And you're seeing like a thriving, which is interesting. A thriving community actually has a little bit of both, which is interesting. Yeah.
And so the second, and further, the ability to do things in this certain way is not due solely to the possession of talent. For many people who have great talent remain poor, while others who have very talent get rich, which we see people. You can say people who are not talented get rich, and people who are talented stay poor. The third thing was getting rich is not the result of saving or thrift. Because then he says many very penurious people are poor, while free spenders often get rich. He said the fourth, nor is getting rich due to doing things which others fail to do. For two people in the same business often do almost the exact same things. And one gets rich while the other remains bankrupt. But I said something in there that was funny because he said something about the doing things in a certain way.
Yeah. Highlighted within a certain way. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and just so the viewers out there, the listeners out there know, this book, If I Am for a Certain, was written in somewhere between 1900 and 1911.
I thought it was 1915. Let me see.
Is it 1915? We should have given y'all that, but it's so relevant to the day. Yeah, I'll let you look that up. See, now we have access, my dear Miss Town.
The copy I have is signed 1920 and published 1910. 1910.
There we go. Because he died in 19. I'm just all off this morning. 1911. I ain't even gonna claim that. He died in 1911. So I knew it was something early. But it applies to today.
Yeah. Well, he published a book and died a year later.
Yeah, he was done.
Jeez.
He got it all out. He's like,
this is
time to go to the next plane.
All right. All right.
Funny. So go ahead, bro.
No, keep going.
I was going to say chapter 3. So we're going to kind of go through chapter wise, and we'll see where we land. Chapter 3, he was talking about is opportunity monopolized, and so he had a particular perspective on that. And how does that perspective align today with what was then? Because back then he was talking about the railways.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
And then he even does a little prediction. He says in the future, the industry will change to flying.
Flying, yeah.
And that may create thousands or even millions of jobs. I was like, oh, shit. He was ahead of his time. Yeah.
So it starts off, no man is kept poor because opportunity has been taken away from him. And then you're like, you got to keep reading. But it says, because other people have monopolized the wealth and put a fence around it. So that second part kind of makes a little bit more sense. Especially in this day and age, I think there's opportunities everywhere. We just have to, I think as we're going through this book, we talk about certain things have to be done a certain way.
Right.
Yeah.
I like how he says a certain way too, because I was like, what is this certain? What do you mean? Because later on, I'll probably bring it up now, because in chapter 4, he talks about what's the first principle of getting rich. I literally listen to this every single day because Bob Proctor, he said, listen to chapters 4, 14, and 7 in that order every single day for a year, and your life will change. I was like, well, why not?
Hold on, say it again. Say it again. He said, Bob said what now?
Bob Proctor said, listen to chapters 4, 14, and 7 daily, and it will change your life. And 4 is the first principle in the science of getting rich. 14, I should know that by heart. 14 it's about the impression of increase. And chapter 7 is gratitude.
Right on.
And you have those in your belt, on your tool belt. You begin, because the other night, it was so funny. Kareen, my mate, lady, my fiance, my queen, my goddess, she said something to me, and the way I responded to her, she was like, you ain't. And I was like, whoa, time out, hold on. Before we finish that, what are we planting, right? Because we see things by the fruit. So the only reason I respond in a particular way is by the fruit that I see. I'm not going to act like I don't see what I'm seeing. Now, I would love for it to change, but I keep seeing bananas on here. Them bananas. Them ain't apples, okay?
Okay. Yeah.
But I felt like we both got something out of it, because I was going in a certain way though. I felt why she said what she said, because I began to have a negative response to something. I was like, but okay, yeah. And she was like, and I was like, hold on, you got to give me credit for changing. I shifted it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you credit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That shit was crazy. But in the first, he talks about that first principle. Thinking substance takes the form of its thought and moves according to the thought. Thought is the only power which can produce tangible riches from the formless substance. The stuff from which all things are made is a substance which thinks, and a thought of form in this substance produces the form. There is a thinking stuff from which all things are made.
Keep going.
And which in its original state penetrates, permeates, and fills the inner spaces of the universe. I got that memorized. I might have flipped the words around, but you start there.
Everything begins with a thought. Everything, this table that my desk is on, the computer that we're recording on, definitely the planet that we live on was all began with the thought that then moved to words. That's a whole different. We got to get into that.
I already know.
Yeah, and so everything. I'm looking at all those stuff. I got this little my bell here. Like everything here started with a thought, and it had to be produced from there, man. So it makes complete sense. If it was impressed upon formless substance.
Yes, and it makes. And I was listening. I was like, okay, the thinking stuff. Okay, so the thinking stuff, some people could say, well, that's God, or the mind of God, the mind of the creator, because it's so like perfect in the way we are built. It's kind of hard not to think that in some regards.
He said, so when a man has thought form, he's taken material from the forms of nature and makes an image of the form which is in his mind. He has so far made little or no effort to cooperate, however, with the formless intelligence, to work with the Father. He has not dreamed that he can do what he sees the Father doing. Man, yeah, that's good.
What page were you on that one? Did yours say it?
That's page 34. That's my page 34.
You know what? It's probably in a different chapter than the one I'm in. Yep. But I wanted to jump on that because it's as if, I forget which chapter it's probably in this chapter, because he says he says something so good, because he says you got to get out of this mindset of thinking that you got to be poor to be righteous.
Oh yeah. He said, I think that's in chapter 2 though. I think that's 2 or 3.
2 or 3.
He's like, thinking about if your piety and poverty should be the same. That's.
Yes. Yes. He says there's only abundance. What is this? He says to think truth. This is what really hit me. Well, I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it 2 different ways. Here we go. He says the ability to think the way. Oh no, to do things in the way you want to do them. Mm-hmm. You will have to acquire the ability to think what you want to think. This is the first step toward getting rich. I don't think people really. You have to to do the things in the way you want to do them. You will have to acquire the ability to think the way you want to think. This is the first step in getting rich. And to think what you want to think is to think truth, regardless of appearances. Amen. Amen.
It's so hard, bro. It's hard as in like that is absolutely great. The second part is it can be very difficult. But we talk through, we've talked through in our own conversations about how important it is to be mindful. And what you just talked about with Corinne, like catching the thought, like, nope, I want to think something different. Because how I think is going to tell me how I'm going to respond here. Right. And so like capturing that, talking about like, you have people all the time to tell you like, it was something they said. They making you think a certain way. They making you feel a certain way. Ooh, you don't even have control over that. So it's very difficult to get people. If we can get that concept of like, you have to be able to think the way you want to think so that you can thrive in the way that you are meant to thrive. Mm-hmm. That's important.
Yeah.
So I love that too. I was like, okay, he spit.
Yeah. Because he said, just like you said, he says to think truth regardless of appearance is laborious and requires the expenditure of more power than any other work we are called upon to perform. Mm-hmm. Thinking, man, like, what were you thinking? That is the biggest, I think that's the question I get from my lady and that I give to my daughter. What were you thinking? I just want to know. She'll ask me what I'm thinking. And what we were working on now in our relationship is she'll ask me what I'm thinking and I'll tell her. And then she'll say something back to me. I was like, whoa. Look, I was just telling you what I was thinking. I'm not saying it was right, wrong, and different. You asked the question, I'm answering.
Yeah. It's just there. Yeah.
I'm not.
You always tell her, listen, before we start, I'm going to say it, but don't forget, I have disidentified with my thoughts. I am not my thoughts.
I am not my thoughts.
I am not my thoughts. I am not my emotions. I am just expressing these at this particular time.
Yeah, all right. And I think people learn once you learn that changes the whole game. Once you learn you are not your thoughts.
Absolutely.
You are not your emotions.
Absolutely. I think everything shifts. It's crazy. Like everything shifts in in full truth. Everything shifts when you start to disidentify, especially, which is different from, because we talked about this a little bit, different from disassociating. You still have the thoughts.
Right.
You just don't identify as the thought. You know what I mean? So like sometimes you get in these places and this like pop psychology, they were like, where you see people start to repress. So it's like, or try to ignore the thoughts that are there. No, you can still acknowledge the thought. It's still going to hang out. The more you try to ignore it, it's going to be probably even more powerful for you. So it's like if we get in that space of like, just pull away from it. Okay, it ain't me. Mm-hmm. It's just something I have, right? It's like a car I drive. If the car is you, that's a whole problem. So we just got to stop identifying things that actually they create vehicles for us in all the different types of sense, but they are not necessarily who we are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I got a question here. How does the concept of increasing life connect with the accumulation of wealth? And going into chapter 5 is increasing life.
Yeah. Let's get into it.
And I'm going to state one statement in that every living thing must continually seek for the enlargement of its life because life in the mere act of living must increase itself.
So do you remember this conversation we said we will read another book that we haven't done on the podcast yet? But I was like, I don't know if we're being supernatural, I think the goal is to be fully natural, because I don't think we're even there yet. So what we consider supernatural is just actually fully realize nature. Remember we talked about that?
Yeah. We had our different views on that, but yeah.
You're right. Yeah. But if you on my page 45 in chapter 5, he says everything is naturally for you.
Everything is naturally for you. Everything is naturally for you. Depending on what see, when I hear everything, I'm like, what you mean? What we talking about? We mean everything.
Of course.
In context too.
Of course. Make up your mind that this is true. It is essential, however, that your purpose should harmonize with the purpose that is in all. That's a good statement.
Right. Because before that, for somebody like me, right, if I heard that statement, I'm like, well, I don't know about everything. He said the universe desires you to have everything you want to have. Mm-hmm. Nature is friendly to your plans. Everything is naturally for you.
So then, so the top and the bottom of that is the key, though. It seems like it has to be in harmony. Everything's naturally for you if you're in harmony with what is naturally for you as well. And I think that's it.
No. When you said that, it made me think of wake up. It's the first of the month, and then how they be harmonizing.
So we still don't know how.
Boom.
Best body. God's got everybody. That's a whole different song, though.
Yeah.
That's a whole different song.
Hopefully, Apple don't ping us for that one.
No. Trust me, they're not going to be able to read what we're singing because
not at all.
I know I'm off key.
Me too.
Yeah.
He said you are to create, not to compete for what is already created. Go ahead, man.
What? Because the competition tells us that we are moving in a space of lack in that moment, right? That is only a certain amount. It's only one gold medal.
Right.
It's only one silver medal. It's like, that makes so much sense too. I like that.
Yep. He talks about when you get it, because there's only, you want to be in creative thought versus competitive thought.
Absolutely.
Which I've been saying recently, collaborative thought. I love competition because competition would move me forward. So when he was talking about competitive, but what he did say that got me was when you're in that competitive statement, there is only one. So then jealousy might creep in, or envy might creep in. Mm-hmm. Cheating to because I want to win this thing. It's like whoa. Instead of being creative, and just realizing like, oh man, that's what you doing. I'm doing it like this though.
Yeah. I would say it's, but at the same time, I think I think the thing about like I'm thinking about this because I did a workshop and we talked about competitive natures and all that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. I was thinking about, I think it's okay to be competitive, but you just got to make sure that you're only competing with the person that you were before.
I can see that.
You feel that? Like I'm not competing with Goolsby. You're not but Goolsby competing with Goolsby. He's trying to be better than yesterday's Goolsby. He's trying to be better than 2021 Goolsby. He's definitely trying to be better than 1999 Goolsby. Right? So we are only comparing ourselves to our former. We want to be competitive. We're going to be competitive to our former selves.
Right.
Like and because matter of fact, we're definitely in, we're in a tension sometimes with our former selves because the former self want to like just stay where it is, right? And the new self. And I
was going to say, that's where then I can dig what he's saying about being creative. Because if I'm being competitive with my old self and my old self don't care and he just boom, then that makes me say, well, if I just do a little bit better, but that's not going to give me the gains that I want. It's almost like, well, your lazy ass can sit over there. I'm about to go learn how to play the trumpet.
There you go.
Or whatever that thing is. Let me figure out a different way. Like us reading books. I don't know how many friends I got before. What?
Oh no, stay right there. But what was I was going to say? Stay there, and I'll come back.
All right. So I don't know how many friends I had. I was like, man, let's read books, and they're looking at me like, Goose. I could just see them. You know what I'm saying? I'd be on the polo. Hey man, let's get on some books.
You want to read? You want a book club, nigga? That's what you want?
Yeah.
Then you want a book club?
That's what I want.
You want us to sit around and drink tea together?
Yeah.
That's
See, and I'm getting excited.
But the group chat, our group chats are terrible. They don't care, man. They be on out. I'm like, come on, man. I'm like, we just should be reading books.
Yeah.
Reading books.
Learning.
Sit around and drink tea. What you want to do? You want to talk about our feelings at the same time? Like, hey, what are we talking about right there? How old are we? We're not in high school.
No.
Yeah, we get.
It's like, why don't we just take advantage of? We can learn and not make excuses for why we don't know stuff. We'll be online. How many championships did Tom Brady win? And I'm the one that goes look it up. Somebody will say, well, he only won 4 or 5. I was like, no, I think he won about 8, 7, 8, something like that. However many he won. What I'm saying is you have people just talking and not even researching what they talking about. And we have all the infinite knowledge on the phone.
Yeah.
So I love my friends. Hopefully y'all checking this out right now. I told y'all. And when we making millions doing this, just because we like doing it, it'll be like, man.
Should have read that book, dog. Should have read that book. Yes. There's archives of episodes you can continue to read. You can read along with us right here.
And we have no choice but to become successful. We reading all the books that did it. And if it don't happen, then it don't happen. But I don't even think like that. Because I think in a certain way. Ha! Gotcha. Came back around.
So
you know what? Go ahead.
The certain way, but also going into that certain way. I wanted to go back to competition. If we're not in competition with the person that we used to be, then we're in competition with our future self.
You're gonna stick with this competition, ain't you?
If you're in that state that you still have to be competitive, because you stated, it drives you a little bit.
It does.
Right. So that means you're only competitive. You're competitive with the person with the ideal self, and that's who you always chasing. It's like that cat that kept trying. He kept coming in second with Usain with Bolt.
Right.
It was an American cat. He kept coming in second, and it's like, boy, but he was still breaking records. He's still breaking records, but he just kept coming in second place. But he's still great in his own right.
So we got up to about chapter 5 on that.
Okay.
And we'll be back next week. This book is a fairly quick read, but it is a comprehensive. It's one of those, to me, I call it a Bible book, where you keep reading it, you keep reading it, you keep reading it, and
see something else. Yeah. Every time you read it, you'll probably see something else in it. You're like, oh, wait a minute. Okay. It's because you got a different new lens.
Thinking what you want to think, man.
All right, good people. This is Trey D.
And Goolsby.
And this has been another episode of As a Man Readeth. We'll see y'all on the next episode. Peace.